with college football at our front door. We're joined by Jamie Morris, co-host of the M Zone on 1050 The Ticket in Michigan. Jamie, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How you guys doing?
We're doing great. The college football is here. What more can we ask? And people are
Well,
actually at the stadium. For
yeah.
somebody who for years got to experience 110,000 people at Michigan cheering you on and then in the pros, what was it like for you to observe football games with no fans? And now what do you think the players are going through experiencing the fans coming back?
Well, it's a two prong. So for the young guys that came in as freshmen to play for the University of Michigan and have an opportunity to play in front of the largest crowd in college football today, they didn't get a chance to experience it. For the guys that had experienced it, it was probably a letdown for them because they're so used to using that crowd as a pick me up. Not that they needed a pick me up, but I mean it is the greatest thrill of your life coming out of Michigan football tunnel, running onto the field and hearing in unison the victors being sang, and you just you observe that. It is the most incredible feeling that you can ever have.
I'm a Rutgers boy, so I have to deal with Jeff singing that song a lot. So just letting you know, I deal with that. But you talk about the feeling of running out on the tunnel or being in that stadium at this time of year, things getting ready to kick off. I know you're in the middle of it with your own radio show. Do you miss being on the field?
I get that question a lot. If you asked me that probably 10, 15 years ago, sure, I do. But now I'm okay. I think that I've had my time in the sun. You know what I'm saying? I've had my opportunity. I got a chance to play for one of the greatest college football coaches in the history of college football. I had a chance to play with the biggest guys that I've ever witnessed. And, it was just, I have to look at my 4 years and I'll compare them to anybody's for any college. And, it's second to none. So, no, I don't miss it. Do I wish I could go back and play it again? Sure. But, hopefully I could correct the mistakes that I did along the way.
So Jamie, you may not miss it, but one of the reasons we wanted to have you on was to talk about going back in a time machine and what would you have done or how different would college football be for people like you who did have the recognition, playing at a big school, being the MVP of a bowl game, going to the pros later on. What would it have been like for you in the name, image, and likeness realm? And how would it have changed, if anyway? How would it have changed what decisions you made with regard to where you went to school and how different your experience would have been at school?
I grew up loving the University of Michigan since I was 8 years old. So I don't think I would have chose any other school with the NIL. But I will tell you that it would have been different because I'm a team player. I'm that kind of guy. I got there. I got there and I was 142 pounds. If you can believe that, I was in the best shape of my life. I was coming off a track. I had got an invitation to the Olympic trials in 1984. And I thought I was a stud. But when I got to the University of Michigan, slowly but surely did I lose all of that confidence because you're looking at guys that are 6'2" playing running back that can run just as fast as me and different things like that. But I had an opportunity. You hear the expression, take advantage of all your opportunities. I had a high IQ to play football. I understood the plays, and I had three brothers that came before me. I was fortunate to have three brothers that came before me that went on to play college football at the University of Syracuse, and they taught me a lot. They taught me the basics of football. It's really the terminology you need to learn because football has the same plays. They just call it something different. and you just need to learn the terminology. And I used that information that they gave me, and I got a chance to catch up with the veteran players. So getting an opportunity and becoming a named person, yeah. But I would have made sure that the 5 guys in front of me, the 3 guys on the outside of me, wide receivers, I made sure that my teammates enjoyed making money just as I could. The danger of this, it's a great opportunity, and it's about time that something like this happens. But the danger of this is the quarterback, the running back, the wide receiver, maybe the tight end. But everybody forgets the big uglies in front of you. You can't forget those guys because they are the most important part of college football on an offense. If they're not doing their job, none of the other guys could do their job.
And you were a team leader, and you talk about the other players on the team. There's been some suggestion, including by coaches like Nick Saban, that this could create issues in the locker room between the haves and the have-nots. As someone who
Exactly.
held that locker room leader role, how would you address those types of situations?
Well, I would bring up the idea of pooling money. I mean, and then distribute it out, making sure everybody gets a piece of the pie. Now, I mean, I'm not saying that if you're making $1 million, an example, if you're making $1 million, you don't need to make $1 million. You can make $750, and if you're in college, if you give $300,000, $350 into the pot, you're still helping your fellow teammate. You're making them happy. I mean, that's a lot of money, and it's just that you need to make sure everybody, as Coach would say, everybody's got to eat. So everybody gets a piece of that pie. And I would advocate for that. We had committees on our football team where it's always the seniors, juniors, sophomores, and freshmen. So we would make sure everybody had a piece, including all the way down to the managers. You got to make sure everybody's part of the team. So I mean, it is the most important thing you need to do is to make sure everybody, because these are your brothers. These are the guys that got beside you when you had to do those early runs in the morning, when you had to sprint, they don't do 2-a-days anymore, but when we had those 2-a-days, maybe sometimes 3-a-days in 90-degree weather. And that's how a team is built over the summertime.
Yeah, but Jamie, that sounds great, and that's what a leader does, and that's what a team player does, is what you're suggesting. But you can't mandate it. So what happens if I'm just going to use a quarterback? What happens if a quarterback comes in and he gets $1.5 million, and his parents and his family say, "No, we're not sharing it"? How do you deal with? I mean, these are the practical problems that we're going to have now. I think it's a great idea to have the NIL. The question is how do you keep the locker room together in these situations?
Well, he's just got to if he wants to be part of the team. I mean, look, when you choose your team, when you choose a college, when a young man or a young lady chooses a college, they're choosing to be with a team. They met these athletes when they first got there. So it's got to be bestowed upon them that when you come here, we come here, this is what we do. Mom, dad, whoever you need to tell, this is what we do here. It's not mandated. You may not want to come here because here, this is what we do because we love one another. We're a family here. I know you have your direct family and everything like that, but if you want to be a part of this program, this is what we do. And that's got to be explained. This is not a hard thing. Discipline is the most important thing when it comes to college sport. If you have no discipline, then you have a bad team. So with that being said, every athlete understands what team rules are and where the team rules are. And look, like I said, athletes will go. Look, I'll tell you, Nick Saban isn't the most favorite coach. I mean, if you ask players about Nick Saban, those guys that are in the NFL, yeah, they love Coach Saban. But when they were going through the hell, they they did not like Nick Saban. Trust me, but they thank him now, just like we did. We thank Bo Schembechler for what he was a mean cuss back when I was a freshman, sophomore, a junior. But I learned what he was doing my senior year. I mean, it's part of your growing up.
Well, you mentioned that, and I'm curious because we've sort of seen the change in college football through the years recently with the transfer portal, and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of that tough love is sometimes interpreted. A benching is I'm going to potentially go someplace else. Now you add name, image, and likeness on top of it. How do you think this is all going to impact with student athletes trying to move around to what they view as the best opportunity for themselves, which may not be the best opportunity for the team that they've originally chosen?
Well, look, the best thing that happened was the transfer portal, and I, you know what? I'm a fan of that too. I get it. I understand. When kids, you're 18 years of age, 17, 18 years of age, making one of the most important decisions in your life, and you know what? You could go to that college, have a great time. 2 days of official visits cannot make 4 years. You've got to do your own homework too. See, that's what people think. These kids go on these official visits, come back and say, "Oh my God, they have golden sidewalks, and they got this, they got that, they got this." And yes, they're very passionate kids, but I did because I knew what kind of guy I was. When I saw Michigan's locker room and everything like that, I went crazy. Oh my God! But my mother and father kept me grounded. They asked the questions about education. You've got to have somebody in your family unit that is asking those tough questions, because I'm not going to ask them. I'm 17, 18 years old. All I want to see is that damn stadium. I want to go to the basketball game if it's basketball season on my visit. I want to go to the hockey game if that's my thing. I'm trying to get a feel what the fans are like and different things like that, because I'm a very impressionable little kid, young man. But my mother and father, they looked at everything. Not that they said anything. They did ask questions about education and how important it was and what happens. And they were told about the Michigan experience, and we're the largest living alumni base, blah, 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 all of that. And they were told everything. So when we came back and we did the comparisons, and we sat at the dinner table, and my parents went through it 3 times, because I had 3 brothers that went through it. So they kind of sat me down and told me what they thought, their impressions, and everything like that. And when I chose the University of Michigan, and I said, I think I want to go to Michigan, I think my mother told me, "You're my youngest. I don't want you to go. You would be better off at Boston College," because I was living in Massachusetts at the time. We lived in a little small town called Ayer. That being said, I mean, if you think about the NIL, yeah, that would have made me popular in the state of Massachusetts and different things like that. Because I thought about this. Oh, I could have cashed in and everything like that. But that's just the state of Massachusetts. If you make it at the University of Michigan, that's national recognition. You know, everybody knows you. Everybody knows Michigan. Everybody knows that fight song. Everybody knows those helmets. So, you know, you look at that. And then the other colleges, Wisconsin. I looked at Wisconsin. My mother and father loved Wisconsin because they were going to get me a job, a summer job, and they were going to do this and they were going to do that. And I said to them, it's not recognized like the University of Michigan. Nothing against Wisconsin, but I'm talking national stage. So I thought in an NIL situation, I chose right. You know, I had the opportunity to play early. I had the opportunity. I kept my position as I got better and better, and as the offense got better and better, we were running the ball a lot more. I mean, I figured, and I say this and I do this. Jumbo Elliott and I talk all the time. We talk almost every day. That's yes. We talk about the NIL. He's like, we could have cleaned up, Jay. Me and you, we could have cleaned up and everything. I mean, I remember this photo that I took with Jumbo, me standing on a stool and putting my shoulder on his my arm on his shoulder. That's an iconic picture. And I said, we could have used nowadays. We could have used that picture selling cars and selling toothpaste and all kinds of things.
You could have been autographing that places. You'd have made it.
Exactly.
Yeah, but Jumbo would have needed a lot more money to pay for his groceries than you did.
I'm gonna tell you this. When my mom came to games. Well, she didn't really go to the games. She made food. So when my mom would come in on Friday and Saturday, and everybody, all the offensive linemen knew because she fed them. They came over on Sunday. We had a big Sunday breakfast, and we sat around watching Michigan replay to see if the old man was going to be angry because that's he shoots that at night at the Saturday night. On Sunday morning, it debuts before we go down to watch film, and he kind of gives you hints of what he's going to say to the team. So we used to watch that all the time together.
One of your other teammates is now the athletic director at the University of
Warren
Michigan.
Manuel. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we had him on the show when the transfer portal first started, and he talked to us about some of the pitfalls of the transfer portal. And sometimes kids not everybody who goes to college is as fortunate as you in that you had a good family, that you had brothers that had already gone through it, including Joe, who played for the Giants. So you have a lot of these people that are hangers on, and then the dreaded boosters, which isn't always a bad word, but sometimes it can be, and they don't have the best interests of these young athletes in their minds. So when you have something like the NIL in addition to that, and you see what's going on at places like Miami where somebody gave money to the entire team, what do you do as an athletic director to somehow control this and make sure that it doesn't get out of control? Because right now it's the Wild West. There are no rules for any of this.
Exactly. The worst thing that happened is that the athletic directors took a back seat. They didn't get involved. And I'm not dogging out my guy Ward, but his whole profession. I mean, they all sat back and watched. And maybe they couldn't do anything. Maybe the university didn't want them to do anything. But you got to get involved. These kids need guidance, leadership. And what they did is a damn shame. Shame on them for what they did, because it is the Wild West now. And what they'll get, they will reap the rewards of what these kids can do now. I'm sorry. They shouldn't have let these kids, come out until they had rules and regulations. You can always change rules and regulations, as you both know. But if things are established now, you're going to go to court. Kids can these young people can take universities to court and say, hey, we did it when we first came out, and we didn't have a problem with this, and why do they have a problem with this? And they're going to basically win because you had no regulations or rules before this came out. You just said, hey, like you said, hey, have at it, boys. Go take care of it. You got we've got NIL now. Go do what you do. Bring it to us, and guess what? We'll take a look at it. We're pretty much going to sign you through as long as it's not alcohol, gambling, or pornography. I mean, really?
And that seems to be the guidelines. As long as it's not one of those three things, it's like, all right, go ahead.
Well, that's an NFL thing. That's an NBA thing. That's basic. I mean, they just took the basics and said, okay, you can't do this. But they have done something. The University of Michigan has said you have to come to us and pay us for a license fee to use the Block M. So kids can't use the Block M. But I play for Michigan, but I can't use the Block M, but you have to pay for that Block M. You have to do like any other vendor that wants to use that Block M, you have to pay for it. Doesn't seem fair though. And they'll argue that too. I play for you. I mean, come on.
I was going to say, I'm sure that they'll argue that they're on the field playing for it. Why can't they use the photo that they took? But I did want to ask you sort of about the larger issue of the NCAA sort of leading from behind as usual. You have the NIL issue. You have realignment now with Texas and Oklahoma going to the SEC, the Pac-12, Big Ten, and ACC with a handshake. The Big 12 is looking for more people. And apparently the whole thing's throwing the college playoff expansion into doubt. Your thoughts on the overall state of college football right now?
Well, like you said, the NCAA is doing its usual thing, leading from behind. Look, I guess having court cases and losing court cases and losing in the Supreme Court and all of those things, I guess it's true. They have a monopoly, and they've always had a monopoly, and they got exposed. So now, why not go and work with these young men, young people? Why not go and allow these young people to work together? I mean, I get it, but if the NCAA and the universities in general, if you're coming to a university, universities have rules and regulations. You can't tell them what to do. I can't tell them. Student athletes can't tell them what to do. Universities can abolish sports if they want to. They don't want to because that's a lot of money. But that being said, it's the fear of it. So kids will listen to these universities. But it's like you said, they're leading from behind. They're afraid of being taken to court and losing again. And the problem is, if you're afraid, it's an antiquated system. That's what the NCAA is. You've got to lead by examples. Universities have got to come together and vote on this and vote in a good director of the NCAA, someone who understands college athletics and young people, what young people want. And you've got to have boards with young people on them. The kids have got to be able to have their say at the table. The problem is you like the money, and you don't have to pay the kids. Let's be honest. This is all about money. This is all about money and who gets it. And they've had it for years where they didn't have a...
Jamie, they're amateurs. They're student athletes. Come on, we got to go along with this here.
I think that went away when we decided to have the Dream Team go out and slaughter all these teams. Remember that in '92? The amateurism went away a long time ago. And I'm sorry, we've got to get away from that. I know, I get it. I get it. They don't want to have a payroll in excess of this and that. Look, you have a standard pay throughout the colleges. Agree with it. And you don't call it salary. You call it, what do you call it? You just call it expenditures. Or you call them, what do we used to get?
You could call it a stipend. You can call it whatever you want.
You call it whatever you want, whatever you need to call it to make it sound like to the fan base that, hey, they're playing for us, or they're going for the blue. Yes, we're all together here. No, you get a nice stipend. You pay the stipend. Alabama plays the highest stipend in the country. Everybody knows that.
Well, look, we could probably talk all day about these issues, but the good news is there is college football, and there are
assuming the water goes down at Rutgers.
Yeah, right. And so, before we let you go, one, how excited are you, and how optimistic, my fingers are crossed, are you that Michigan is going to turn it around this year? And what do you see of the rest of? Let's just do the Big Ten, because I'm sure that's what you focus on your show.
I'm very excited about the college football season starting. I'm excited for people going to the stadium. I'm nervous about people going to the stadium. I like that the university established a mask mandate that goes into the stadium. When you get to your seats, you can and cannot, or you don't have to, take off your mask. But if you're moving around the stadium, you have to wear a mask. I do like that. That being said, I think it's great for college football. I think college football will benefit immensely. Do I think that we're going to have 100,000 fans at every home game and things like that? I think you're going to be. I get a lot of alumnus that contact me, and we text with one another and everything like that. I think we're going to have probably between 80 to 85,000 people. It will be announced that we had over 100,000 fans in the stadium, but I don't.
Well, the band counts. Remember,
I know the band counts. The players that don't play, the vendors that are making your hot dogs and hamburgers. Anybody.
Jeff watching at home on his couch, that counts too.
But I'm excited for the Big Ten, and in answer to your question about the University of Michigan, I think we needed to make a turn. And Jim Harbaugh, who was my quarterback for 3 years, I mean, I think he got his mind right. I think he brought in a very aggressive staff, a younger staff, someone that got him fired up again. And He doesn't have a bunch of yes men behind him anymore. I'm sorry, that's just my opinion, but look, we need go-getters. We need guys that want to be head coaches someday, and they're going to get into these kids, and they're not going to be nice guys about it. They're going to tell you what they need, and if you don't deliver, we'll replace you and put the next player in. And that's what you want. And that's what they need. So I think Michigan's going to be a big surprise. A lot of people are not as excited as I am, but I think you'll get a lot of surprise games. Look, I said Michigan, they're either going to beat Penn State or they're going to beat Wisconsin. I'd like them to beat both, but I see an 8-4, 9-3 team. They could get to 9 if they play their butts off, but they're going to have to play. And
the real question is, can they beat the Big Ten powerhouse of Rutgers? That's the real question.
Well, Greg Schiano's
Jeff loves when I try to push Rutgers as like
Yeah,
a
I was
football
Jamie.
situation.
I was at the 77-0 game. So
Jamie, not only was he at the
after.
77-0 game, he was texting me at every score to remind me that they had scored again. So not only did I get the ESPN alert, I got Jeff's text to let me know how few fans were in the stadium and how many points Michigan had put up. It was great.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I think John Runyon gave you some crap about that afterwards too.
That day by himself.
Yeah, story of my life as a Rutgers fan, but we're hoping for better this year, Jamie.
And you will get better. I think Greg Schiano's got them pointing in the right direction. He's hungry. We know he knows how to recruit. So I think he does a good job, and I think everybody will be impressed with what he's done.
See, Jeff, I have to leave it there. It's a positive note about Rutgers to end the show with two Michigan men.
Yeah, and Jamie, we really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us about college football and all that's going on at the beginning of the season. You can catch Jamie as co-host of the M Zone on 1050 The Ticket in Michigan. Jamie, good luck and go Blue.
Thank you. It was great talking to you guys, and go Blue.